Hey there, thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Listen, if you are new to the channel, welcome to the Cornell Jermaine YouTube channel. And if you are a returning guest, I want to salute you for hanging in there and consistently staying in touch with what it is that I have to say on this particular medium. So listen, this is the final episode for our Serve series. Now, if you've missed the Serve series, it's 5 episodes prior to this one. So it's been an installment. We've been doing an episode that talks about service, and it's for anybody who wants to live a life of significance, purpose, or greatness, right? But especially for those who really have a heart to serve, whether it's in a business capacity, an employment capacity, or in just a community. It's for anybody who really wants to find their area, find their space, and serve people. I'll leave it to you to go through this series and check out those previous episodes. Listen, we'll link them down in the description below, and by all means, please check them out at your leisure. So today I want to do something special, and I couldn't allow this Serve series to conclude without me sharing my story of service. My story of service starts with a question that came to me well into my adult life, well into my journey as an entrepreneur, servant, leader, a service provider, etc. And it came from a young lady who posed a question to me at an event. I was at an event some years ago, and there was this big session. Obviously, it's a lot of us coming from all over the country, and there was an opportunity, as in most events, for us to network. Well, the facilitator of the event, who was a friend of mine I had worked with for many years, was putting some highlights on some of the people that were in the room, just to encourage those who maybe have been new or those who may had not experienced this particular event to understand the type of people that were in the room and why the networking and getting to know one another was so important, right? So I was one of the people that was highlighted in this kind of introductory type thing for the session, right? So one of the individuals was called, and the introduction was beautiful, and they spoke so highly, so much so that this particular young lady, who I did not know at the time, had not met before, came up to me at the next break. So she came to me, she introduced herself, she was talking so excited, very candidly, very personably, and I was like, hey, my personality, I'm like, hey, I'm excited to talk to her, just meet her, just, whatever, just shoot the breeze. We talked about what she did, and she just so happened to be the CEO of a major corporation, and I think the corporation now to date has about 200 employees in the DMV area, I believe. They do a lot of global enterprise in other countries, but they're definitely very, very well known in the space of healthcare. Just so happened she was looking for a particular service and a particular individual to help her with something. And the introduction that was done led her to think that I could be the person to help in this area. But then after she introduced herself, told me what she did and all the things, she asked me a question. And the question was, specifically, she said, Cornell, what do you do better than anybody else? And my immediate response was one of training, where you go into your 30-second, 60-second pitch about who it is, what you do, and who you serve and all that. Usually, if you're familiar, those pitches are very rehearsed, automatic, autopilot, boom, elevator pitch. And I remember telling her and looking at her face, and because, I've been working with people for many years, so I understand intuitively what I'm dealing with when I'm talking to people. I can look at a person's face and they not say a word and completely discern what's happening. I knew after telling her and looking at her face that what my response was not what she was looking for. It was almost a letdown because her expectations were much greater. I dealt with that thing all for weeks because I knew that I missed the mark. Now, mind you, there was no inappropriate ending to the conversation. It was just like a casual kind of like, okay, well, we'll talk, and it was just gone. It was move on. We moved on about the room, But I knew something was unsettled. It was unsettled in me because I knew that I did not deliver on what should have been such a simple question. What do you do better than anyone else? So that thing pondered me and sat with me for weeks. It sat with me because I wanted to be able to answer the question, not necessarily for her, but for myself. So I started rehearsing all of this stuff, all of the experiences, all of the people, all the places, and I started to see a thread. It took me back to my childhood, to this ambitious, jovial little boy who was always and wanting to do something, whether it was within the home, whether it was at church. I was reared in a way by my village, and when I say my village, of my family, and this is a common within my family, so it's not just me, but we were reared in a way where we respected and valued and considered one another. Not knowing that that rearing would shape my professional journey, even to today. How you serve your elders, how you consider one another. This was something that was just a part of my journey. But it didn't stop there, because as I started to look and think about my professional experience, it took me back to a time where I was about 13 years old, where I worked as a volunteer at one of the premier hospitals in my area. Now, if you're familiar with hospital volunteers, you know that at one generation, they were referred to as candy stripers, right? And they were referred to as candy stripers because of the outfits, the uniform they wore. And that was probably like in the 50s and 60s. And at that period, and even leading up to close to the time where I got involved, most candy stripers or volunteers within the medical space were women. Well, I was one of those individuals who came and changed kind of the trajectory of this space being just female dominated. Right? Because I was one of the only males within the hospital that I worked as a volunteer. Now, I call this my professional journey because I was not necessarily paid for it, but it shaped who I was and how I showed up in many areas of my life as I moved forward professionally into paid gigs. I remember the time, and obviously I came to know this later as it pertains to my role in this place, how I was the liaison or the buffer, if you will, between the patients and the medical staff. You know, I was there to give the patients a little brighter day and serve them in whatever way they needed. And then I was there to kind of be the gopher and the individual that helped assist some of the medical professionals in general capacities, you know, not dealing with medicine specifically, but administrative, et cetera, et cetera. I was never paid for that gig, right? At that time, you know, and it might still be today, but there was hot food. You know, they cooked 3 square meals a day. And I'm not talking about just, you know, the stuff that they give to the patients. I'm talking about for the staff, you know, and obviously the staff can go in, they get their lunches or whatever. Well, we were able to eat for free. And when I tell you we ate, and we ate well. And for me, that was enough. You know, I didn't need necessarily the pay. I mean, I was only 13, so I didn't have any bills. I wasn't looking for no money. You know, I just wanted something to do, and I wanted something that was kind of, you know, meaningful. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what that was. And I did that in that capacity for about a year and a half. And all of a sudden, I realized that I was valued more than I knew, because I showed up and just did what I do. I was not looking for accolades, looking for pats on the back, etc. But come to find out, it was exceptional for those that worked in the hospital and that supervised us and oversaw us as volunteers. So much so that, to my surprise, I ended up being awarded as the Volunteer of the Year. This premier hospital, the first time they ever publicly acknowledged a volunteer for their service. They acknowledged me on the nightly news, and the only reason I saw it is because my phone was ringing at our home, and my mom just so happened to be watching television as well, and my cousin was calling, and they was like, oh, so-and-so, and I'm running to the TV, and I just so happened to see, like, and I did not know. But that's what happened. And that was one of those incidents that I thought about when I was pondering this question that this lady asked me, what do you do better than anyone else? I can recall another time where now I'm in a really professional environment where I'm actually getting paid, right? This one was significant for me because it was my first corporate job at the age of 18 when I became a junior manager for a corporate beauty salon establishment. This particular establishment had salons all across the country. I worked under senior managers, district managers, regional managers. So there were many managers within this hierarchy. I was the junior, so I was way down at the bottom, but I loved what I did. So much so, and mind you, I'm 18. Got my own little car. I believe it was a 1992 Sable, Mercury Sable, all white, red interior. The ugliest thing you probably wanted to see, but it was mine and I loved it and I drove it. So as the junior manager, I had to make sure that the establishment was open, ready. As clients and customers came in, I had to manage all of the front desk activity when it came to all of this entire staff. Now mind you, the staff was major because this is a major brand. I remember there were about 20 plus operators in this particular establishment, all of them which had huge clienteles. And I was responsible for managing all of their books, their clientele, customer experiences, all of those things for all of these individuals. And I remember getting up, and I wouldn't have to be there. I think we opened at 9 a.m. and I would show up at 7:30. Gladly setting up and waiting on to unlock the door, watching, all of the other establishments as they opened and, showed up for the day. I mean, it was just something I was just excited and happy to do. As I'm pondering still this question, right? I remember this time and I'm connecting dots now. Things are making sense now, right? But the dots are connecting so much so that I wanted another stab at this question. Mind you, this is almost a month later after we've all returned back home and the event is over. But I wanted another stab at this question because now I got it. I got the answer for you. But I realized at that moment why the question was posed to me. Yes, she was looking for an answer, but it was more so that I was being fine-tuned and prepared in a way that I had never been before. And it happened. I got clarity. I understood in that moment what I do better than anyone else. And you want to know what it is? I serve and I serve well. It's clicking now that I'm seeing the thread and all the dots connect. And it's like, oh my God, it's that thing that opened that door. It's that quality that opened that door. It's this ability to serve and serve well that led me to opportunities with Volkswagen, that led me to work with major brands like Lincoln Motors. This is something that I had to realize for myself because it's more than just an elevator pitch. It's who you are. And if there's an understanding of who you are and what you do that's better, you can now find your unique thread, no matter what opportunity comes your way. I just spelled it out for you. I worked in the medical field. I was a volunteer, but I worked there. I worked in community. I've worked in religious sectors. I've worked in corporate positions. I've worked in team environments. I've worked in the arts and entertainment, film and television, media, broadcast radio, all the things. All of them have different functions. All of them may have had a different mission, but the common thread was me and my ability, and not just ability, but willingness to serve. I say that willingness word intentionally because I don't want you to think that it's a special thing that I have that you can't have. Because if you put your mind to it, you put forth the effort, you can serve and serve well as well. Let me help you understand something. That a gift of service is not one to be taken for granted. This is outside of the money, outside of the opportunity. A gift of service is not one to be taken for granted. Because service in and of itself comes with a level of grace, influence, and fulfillment that not even money can give you. Here's what I want to leave you with as we conclude this series, the Serve series. If you're like me and you find yourself willing and passionate and ambitious when it comes to serving at a very young age, or maybe you're one who comes to know the benefit of serving later in life, whatever the case may be, if you accept an opportunity to serve, here's what I want you to do. I want you to step up, take that opportunity by the horns. Serve and serve well. To serve well means to serve with a willingness, so I don't have to make you. Be willing to do the job, especially if you've accepted it. Next, there must be a spirit of excellence attached to what you do. You don't serve people anything that you wouldn't want. I'm this way even to this day. For those that don't know, I enjoy cooking. I enjoy the art of culinary and putting the food together, but as well as eating it, right? But there are several dishes that have gone down the drain because they weren't properly prepared. I'm talking about I have thrown away pans of food because it was not right. And I consider the money that went down the drain like, oh my God, I just spent all that money. Yes, I consider all saw that. But it made me more intentional with how I prepared it in the next time so I wouldn't waste the money. But what I was not going to do is I was not going to show up in a way that was out of integrity. And my integrity said you wouldn't want nobody to put that in front of you, even if it is your family. Mind you, this is not something I was selling to people. This is just me cooking at home. I will throw it in the trash if it's not right. That's just how I'm wired. But that's the level of excellence that I show up with. And it doesn't make me better. It's just who I am. So you be willing to serve, but also do it in a spirit of excellence. You're serving well. The next thing you want to do is you want to lead from the capacity from which you are actually in. Now, you may not be a manager, you may not be a team leader, but when you take on a service opportunity, the reason why you need to have a leadership mindset is because you need to take ownership of exactly what's happening around you and with you as pertains to that project or whatever it may be. The reason why this leadership quality is important is because you will show up differently when you're the one in charge than when you're not. Many of you know this, because you show up late to work, you move half-heartedly, you know what I mean? You do stuff casually, you're no concern with what you're doing. As the leader, you show up typically a little bit more intentional, a little bit more considerate when it comes to what's happening and what's going on and the output and the things that you have to produce. You have to have this leader mentality even if you are just a part of the team. And guess what? That leader mentality will set you apart. It will set you apart from everybody else on your team, which ultimately will impress those who have the power to maybe pull you into a leadership position or to open a door of opportunity for you. So be willing, do it in the spirit of excellence, have a leader's mentality. And here's the last one, and it's so necessary for all of us. Whatever happens, no matter what, and there will be things, there will be circumstances, there will be issues, whatever happens, don't walk away until the job is done. And I'd say that because there may be times where you have to endure just to get it done. And there may be moments where you want to say, forget it, I quit, I'm done, but you can't. If you're on task and the task has not been completed, don't leave it undone. And the reason why that's important is because if you leave it undone, the person that comes behind you to now have to piece it back together and get it all working again will automatically look at you as one who does not finish what you start. So now your credibility is at question. You've moved on. You've gone to the next opportunity. But as an individual, as a person, your credibility has now been put to question because you left something with gaping holes and it should have been completed. Yeah, you quit. You no longer work there. They're not paying you anymore. So why should it be a concern? I know that's some people's thought, right? Well, I don't work there no more. They pay me. They can pay somebody else to do that. That's why I want to let you know. Service is not about the money. It's about the experiences you have and the lasting impressions that you leave in those experiences. The people that are left behind after you've quit and moved on, do they sing your praises? When they run into you in the streets, are they excited to see you? Or are they leaning over telling their girlfriend, look, that's that one, I used to work with her. She didn't do nothing. She ain't never want to work. We was on a big project and she just walked away and left it and got a job somewhere. You get what I'm saying? And for some, let me be very honest, you ain't gonna care about that. All you thinking about is, listen, I want my check. I don't want to work for y'all no more. Y'all, it's a hostile environment. It's not serving me well. I'm going somewhere where I can make money and be in an environment that's conducive to what I want in my career. You know, I get it. You don't care about the lasting impression. And that's okay. Because guess what? That means that this message is not necessarily for you. Because I'm speaking to the ones who have a heart to serve and their life depends on it. The very essence of their being depends on how they show up, the people that they encounter, the connections that they make, and the way that they leave those relationships. Those people, they value service. And not just they value service, but they value the track record that they leave in those moments of service. And it's not necessarily about you intentionally trying to establish a brand for yourself. Because listen, I was not establishing a brand when I was going to the medical facility every day, 5-6 days a week. I wasn't thinking about establishing a brand. When I moved into this junior management position with this corporate entity, showing up at 7 a.m. in the morning, 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and didn't have to be open until 9 a.m. I wasn't thinking about a brand. It was no such thing. You just showed up because it was in you. You did what was in you because it was who you were. Which brings me to be able to answer that question that was given to me. What do you do, Cornell, better than anyone else? And now I sit here, not tooting my own horn, but definitely being an example for those that I know will be inspired and impressed by this. I can say what I do well better than anyone else is I serve. And not only do I serve, but I serve well with a willingness and excellence, a leadership quality, and an intention and passion to never leave what I've started undone. I pray that this helps somebody to maybe even answer that question for themselves. Your answer may be different from mine, and that's great. But what is your answer? This is for you to know. So that if somebody asks you, you can answer. And you'll know the difference between giving them a pitch that you've rehearsed versus really making a connection and letting somebody know that you understand who you are and the gifts, the qualities, the characteristics that you bring to the table. This concludes our Serve series. I truly hope that this has helped you, and if it has, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and by all means, share this with somebody who needs to hear it. Hit the notification bell too while you're at it so that you don't miss a beat. Listen, we'll be back with more. I'll see you back here, same time, same place, next week. Until then, take care.